guys, take a seat, young Skywalker.
Okay, for a long time I wanted to talk about one of my childhood passions, which is the Star Wars franchise. I loved Star Wars, like it was a really important thing of my childhood all throughout. You know, when I grew up, there came the prequels along and shit like that, and every kid on the ground was playing Star Wars in school and stuff like that and had a lightsaber. I didn't, not because my parents hate me, or rather my mother hates me, no problem of the New Republic. But Force Awakens is like, yeah, New Republic doesn't exist anymore, immediately disbanded, Empire's back. And there also was no clear planning, you know. With the previous movies, you had sure different directors, but you always had George Lucas who gave the streamlining of a story, you know. So even though many different directors, you know, all of the previous 6 movies, it was always kind of George's vision, and they're fundamentally different in what they're telling, which is good, you know. Episode 1 isn't just the Phantom Menace isn't just a rehash of A New Hope. It's very different, and so is Attack of the Clones, and so is Revenge of Sith. They are not comparable really with the previous 3 movies. Anyway, the whole fucking controversy doesn't even begin with, because like now I just explained my gripes with fucking The Force Awakens. Now we get to the next movie, which was directed by someone else and a completely different vision than what J.J. Abrams had set up. And like J.J. Abrams, I like you for your Star Trek trilogy. I think the first one is quite good, but you're doing the same mistakes every time, like setting up mystery boxes and then have no fucking clue of resolving them. I don't know, when was the second one called? The second of the sequel trilogy? Because the third one is Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, it doesn't really fucking matter. The creative head behind the sequel trilogy had the bright idea to say there is no source material that it could have used for the movies. Well, but that's because you deleted everything of the source. But not only that, you ripped straight parts off. Like for example, Kylo Ren is the Jason Solo version that you buy from Wish.com, and Rey could be very much a stand-in for Jaina Solo, just less interesting and less humane. And I don't have any hate towards the actors, you know, because they're just doing their job with little control, and they're all not quite that happy with the end result, as you're gonna see. Now, and it isn't right, you know, to say, oh, there's no source material when you previously banned all the source material from your category. In fact, Star Wars is filled with an overabundance of source material that you could have used, you know. And the fucking thing is, you know, I know about the books that continue the story, but I never properly read them. And for me, it would have been far more interesting to adapt those books, because with adaptations, you know, it doesn't have to be everything the same, because you can't do everything the same. So bring in their changes, and then there's just other stuff that was made less cool or less interesting with the new Disney canon that previously existed in the expanded universe. Quinlan was still cool, but less interesting with his book story than what he had in the comics of like Deadfight and shit like that. Like I said, Jason Solo and his turn to the dark side is a really long story, but it's quite well put off, and you know, there's so much adding to it, and the complete fucking run. Yeah, Luke Skywalker in the expanded universe is massively overpowered, like incredibly overpowered, and that's one thing that I never really liked, you know, because he's so overpowered. But there were clear limitations, and it would have been interesting to see him as both father, like in the expanded universe, and uncle, and mentoring other Jedis instead of like making a mistake and then immediately disbanding everything. That speaks so much against his character and what he learned in Return of the Jedi, and especially because there was a challenge like this multiple times in the expanded universe books that take place after Return of the Jedi, where there were deceiving plots and students falling to the dark side. Luke wasn't really scared, he handled it with class and tried his best and could even save some. Rogue One is another movie out of the like sequel canon that I actually kind of did enjoy, except for parts, you know. In a previous canon it was like the Death Star plans got stolen by a character named Kyle Katarn, and he had a love interest called Jen Ors, which was changed for Rogue One to Jyn Orso, but practically it fulfills still the same role, and that's one of the most obvious like name adaptations that got ripped off from the EU and just changed barely. No, the second sequel movie was really divisive among fans. Some love it, some hate it. I haven't watched it because why would I watch the sequel to a movie that didn't interest me? There's like a full-blown tantrum, so I'm just rambling off my mind. Anyway, we get to Rise of Skywalker, which completely turned the fandom upside down. Now, yes, the Emperor did return in the EU. Was it a good plot point? No. Was it enjoyable? Kind of, because it wasn't just him like returning, it was him returning in a younger clone body, so the challenge was different. So it was completely ripped off. And normally, I wouldn't have a problem, if they ripped it off from the EU when they were not so blatantly lying by saying they had no source material and had to think of everything by themselves when they didn't. Did it make sense in the EU? Yes, because Palpatine is a thinker, so of course it would set up lots of stuff for him not dying, especially because his master did know how to be immortal, kind of, while Palpatine didn't. So emergency plans. We see this overall, in how Palpatine had multiple apprentices over the course of the story. So why would he not ensure that his body get transferred or stuff like that? Also with the Leia having force powers, it's not bad, It's also an idea explored in the expanded universe where she didn't become a Jedi, but she used her force powers a couple of times. So yeah, then Kylo turning back to the good side, Rey is revealed to be kind of Palpatine's granddaughter, which diminishes a lot of her character because on one hand it explains a lot. Like in the Force Awakens it said she's kind of special or whatever. Then in the second movie it said, oh no, your parents were farmers, you're not special, and then she's special again. It's really inconsistent, but it makes her less of a Mary Sue because you have a valuable explanation why she's so powerful in the Force. Now, for her taking the Skywalker name still doesn't make sense. And then let's get to more stuff when I'm already ranting, because the new show is out there, Bad Batch. Watch the first two episodes. The first one was kind of okay. Second one, I fell asleep during it, and it's like only 20 minutes, which is not a good sign, and I don't have any plans to rewatch the second episode or any further. But the Bad Batch is also not a new idea. In the expanded universe, you had the Alpha Null Commander, or Alpha Null clone troopers, which were a specialized force in the clone army consisting of clones of Jango Fett that had less ambitions that were less inhibited. Anyway, really cool characters who formed a strong bond with Jedis, 2 even married Jedis, and 1 had a kid. A whole family chronicle, kind of interesting storyline of them seeing really each other's brothers and becoming a Mandalorian clan, because the trainer called Girata was like a father to them, or is like a father to them. So a strong bond on family, which would have been nice to explore, and it seems the Bad Batch goes in a similar direction. But my main plot point why I'm not interested in watching it is because this time frame is so done to death. Like back in the 70s when you had only A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. It was like interesting to see how were the Clone Wars, what did actually happen. But nowadays, and that's also a problem of the expanded universe, there's just too much in those, and I don't care anymore. We kind of knew how the Clone Wars ended, but what led to it was the interesting part, and how the whole downfall went through was interesting. And the same thing goes for stories that are set in the Imperial time when the Galactic Empire ruled, because largely the stories are largely inconsequential. Yet the last Star Wars video game, was also set during the time of the Galactic Empire. Empire, but you already know what happens to like Darth Vader or whatever. It's just a done to death period, and trust me, because I'm so fucking invested and know so much about Star Wars at the point, because I read so much about the wiki. I'm far more interested in the before times, you know, like the first schism, the first Jedi schism, when Darkseid uses were exiled and led a war against the Jedi. Also the second schism where actually the Dark Jedi then went to Korriban and became the first true Sith. Like, you know a few names like Karnas Moor, Soxan, Sources Sin, Argent Tapor, but you don't know everybody, and it was like 13 members who were exiled to Korriban or whatever. That's an interesting time frame. The Old Republic during Bastila's time, or Revan, you know, a movie about Revan maybe, or even later the times when Satil Shan, Bastila's descendant, was active, or even further beyond, you know. That are all interesting concepts, but when it comes to Star Wars, be it the Bad Batch, be it Rogue One, be it the Mandalorian, it's always kind of set in the same limited time frame where there isn't much to tell anymore. And the main thing why it's done is because it has the most recognizable stuff in it, you know, the 80, the walkers, the black and white aesthetic and everything, you know, the sleek designs and shit. It's done out of recognizability, and I know that. Am I happy about it? No, of course not, but that's just the way it is, and that's why I'm sticking to what I know. There's so much that I still haven't read about it or found out in my research, and so far Disney can suck it. I'm not gonna watch their fucking movies. Like, I have avoided so long the sequel to trilogy, and there needs to be a very, very good reason for me to fucking watch it. Otherwise, I'm pretty much done with Star Wars, at least in movie form or television. Maybe there's another interest game coming out. I don't know, but I'm not gonna give Disney my money because I don't have that much money, and I love Star Wars because how it has impacted me and the philosophical concept behind it, but it can't draw me in anymore unless it does explore different sides of the conflict and not just what we are already familiar with as fans. And maybe there needs to be another creative head besides Kathleen Kennedy or Dave Filoni. Maybe there needs to be someone who sees the full picture and is interested in telling different stuff. You know, Rian Johnson was interested in telling good stuff, but I would have not given him the second part of trilogy. I would have given him something different in the Star Wars franchise because it didn't really work out. Yeah, that's gonna be it. We see us in another video, and goodbye.
I didn't need to see that.
Well, the books are full of words that you read, and the show gets me paid